Top on.
Right.
So, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. V Mohan. Namaste. Welcome to another edition of the conversation series with Dr. V Mohan. I'm chairman of Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center and a diabetologist based in Chennai. Many of you already know me and have attended these programs. As you know, in this program so far, we have been focusing more on type 1 diabetes, because this is a type of diabetes where people have to take insulin injection shots several times a day if they are not using a pump or something else. And today I'm very happy and privileged and fortunate to have with me one of my dear friends. I know the family for a long time. This is present to you, Nish Amarnath. Nish is based in New York, and she is a very successful author. She's a journalist, writer. She's written many books. We'll talk about all of that. So welcome, Nish, to the program. It's a great pleasure to have you with us. You're being watched on Facebook as well as on YouTube live.
Thank you so much for having me. Namaste.
Namaste. So Nish, we'll start. Nish Chinta is a full name, and she's called Nish Amarnath. And so Nish, since the relationship that we have is through your diabetes and the type 1 diabetes, we'll start with that. I know that you were diagnosed to have type 1 diabetes when you were a child. So tell us about that, how you were diagnosed, at what age, how did it affect you at that time, what reactions, emotional reactions did you go through, how did you cope with it, how was your parental support, was that the main reason, school, friends, all that. Tell us your story.
Sure. So I had just relocated to India from abroad, and so I, spent my childhood growing up in different cities and countries. I spent a portion of my childhood in Nigeria, and then when my family moved back to Chennai, it was because my mom was having extremely strange symptoms. It was scary, and she was found to have a brain tumor. So that surgery was done, and my mom survived that, but with facial palsy and all that. So it was a very stressful time for the family, because my dad had left his job, and I was, I think, 9 years old at the time. So I have been a precocious kid who has been very sensitive with different various over-excitabilities and so on and so forth. So I think that the cultural setup for me, moving to Chennai was a culture shock, mainly because the extended family or whatever it was that happened, all of the circumstances led me to believe that for some reason I'm responsible for my mom's ill health. So I don't know if you would call this a spiritual thing or whatever, but I do remember praying to God and saying, look, just bring my mom back, and I'm willing to take on any punishment or whatever instead, if I can have my mom back. So 1 year after that, I began experiencing all these very strange symptoms. And I think so I was in the 6th grade. I was kind of ahead academically, age-wise. So I was 10. I was in 6th grade, and I think they'd moved me to a different section or something in class. And so I, just kept to myself. I would read, and I was kind of very shy and reserved. And I had like frequent thirst, and I thought that having like a Fanta or a Coke will kind of alleviate the thirst. Anyway, so all of these symptoms went on for 6 months or longer. And, so my dad and, the rest of the family was still preoccupied with my mom's recovery. So, people thought that maybe it was, just like a monsoon thing, because it was 1996, it was, monsoon time. So things came to a point where I developed diabetic ketoacidosis, and I slipped into a coma because, and that itself was sudden, because, it was just like a fever. And, I woke up that morning, and it was November 1996. So I woke up that morning, and then I think I just passed out and slipped into a coma like a couple hours after I woke up. And then I think when I woke, I found myself in a hospital in ICU when I, returned. And I mean, when I returned to the conscious plane, and I was told, so it was, obviously it was terrible. And it also like that was also the time that I experienced depression before the hospitalization, and I didn't know what it was or what it was just I was not feeling right. So yeah, so when I slipped into a coma, woke up in ICU, I completely lost my appetite and everything, right? But when I woke up in ICU, I felt like, my appetite was coming back, and the first thing I wanted to do was eat something. And I also remember the first thing I ate, which was a spoon of idli, idli with dipped in sambar. And so all this happened in Chennai. And the doctors said, so the doctor was actually a pediatrician at the time. He wasn't a diabetes specialist, but he was great. And he was very, because I was young, he said that, you're going to be okay. Nothing, because I thought, okay, well, I was just, my first feeling was I was just relieved to kind of not feel like that anymore. So that was basically my first feeling. Um, I was in ICU for many weeks. So I remember they would like the nurses, they were all great. They were very caring, but I would like constantly get pricked. They would come with some injection, this thing. I couldn't like eat a solid food like that from the get go. So there was just like a lot of injections or, intravenous, I was being intravenously fed or, I think even insulin, the insulin injections were like the least painful of all that. Mm-hmm. So then I moved to a recovery room after that, and like I've always been like scared of injections, blood, not scared, but it makes me feel queasy, and like I can't watch a kid get vaccinated on TV. I can't, see some child fall down and scrape his knees. I'm very bad in that way. So for me to have to take injections was, my mom actually guided me because we were kind of practicing injecting water into an orange to start with. But it was, I think the transition for me was smooth because the doctor said that I, can lead a normal life. I can, I can be productive. I can live long. I just have to take care. I have to take these injections every day, lifelong. But what are two injections in a whole span of life when you can do everything else and feel as good as you do? So I did not really feel that kind of depression or anything like that. Like I've been told that many other people have told me that they felt that way upon being diagnosed. But I think for me, I was also 10, so I feel like when you're a kid, it's easier to get adjusted.
Adapt easier. Yeah.
And then I connected with you in 2000. In the year 2000, I was 14, and it was so up until then I didn't really have like a consistent diabetes doctor. I mean, everyone was very nice, but when I connected with you, you even back then I thought that you were ahead of your times, because I had no idea about things like A1C, the HbA1c, or carb counting, or any of the other aspects. So those were things that I learned when I came to the MV Diabetes Specialty Center. And then the other thing was you have really played a key role in the attitude that I think must have helped me do what I've done as an adult in a positive way, because I never kind of considered myself disabled or felt that this is a disability. In fact, it is qualified as a disability in the US and many countries. But I, as a kid, I never felt that, I'm disabled.
What about your school? What about your parents? How was there? Because your mother had already gone through the surgery, and she herself was not quite unwell at that time. And so, how was the parental? Because many children whom I have, interviewed and treated, when they have been successful, a large proportion of them attribute this to their parents. Because, and I'm very sure about it, because wherever the parents have been very supportive, the child has blossomed. When the parents have been overprotective, not allowing the child to do anything, the child kind of shrinks and doesn't do that. The parents don't care about the child at all, as it happens in some, diabetes, we'll forget about this child, we'll focus on the next child. So something like that. Then the child gets depressed and they become, they start rebelling. And so the right balance of the parents is something which is very important. How do you, what is that support that you got from the parents? And then in school, how did your friends and so on react to, they must have known that you take insulin and so on.
Well, I mean, I have been very blessed because I had very supportive parents and also very supportive sister. I have a younger sister who's 5 years, she's 5 years younger than me. So she was 5 years old at the time I was 10. And my mom, I think my mom has always been very action oriented. And so she has not been one to, I mean, she is a sensitive person, but she's not been one to, sit and brood and, she's not been like that. So she, set out to, change the diet and, figure out how to, put less oil in her cooking, or how to, ensure that I get some exercise every day, how to, it was like a whole lifestyle change, because initially I started out eating every 2 hours, right? I mean, I hadn't hit puberty yet. So I was taking injections only 2 times a day. Yeah. One in the morning and night. And I was kind of, for a growing child, it was kind of like a portion control thing, right? Like we had to control our portions. And so every 2 hours, I would, have to eat something. I think for me, the biggest thing to get used to was having plain milk without sugar, because before that I used to have Boost and Complan. So my mom has been very supportive through the entire process. She's, I feel, really looked out for me many times at her own expense. She has, kind of, I mean, she's been more than a mom. She's been a friend. She's been a confidante. She's been, kind of also, I mean, she's worn multiple hats. She's been a counselor for me. And she and my dad always led me to believe that, there's a reason that this happened. You're a lot bigger than this. You're, you can achieve your dreams. You can, follow whatever you set out to achieve. You just follow your dreams and, really kind of make it like a focus on your talents and everything. So now the thing is, type 1 diabetes is not hereditary at all, and neither was type 2 diabetes. It was, no one in my family has had it, extended family, ancestors, and as far as I'm aware. So my mom was obviously shocked when she was told that I have type 1 diabetes. She didn't know, and no, that's why nobody guessed it, So so it was, but then we kind of got used to it, and I tried to connect with other people also who had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, take, injections together and have breakfast together and things like that. There was one friend I was doing that with. In terms of school, I think, before talking about my school experience, I did want to also say that a lot of like the newspaper write-ups, the media write-ups, all the awards, all of that which I received really started after the diabetes, after this experience.
Wonderful.
Because I had won the Hindu Young World competition at the time, and I was supposed to go to, I think, Trivandrum or, Bangalore. I can't remember. I was supposed to go somewhere to collect the award. I was in hospital, so, I didn't collected that year in 1996. But every competition or any awards or the media writing up or doing write-ups about some painting or some writing that I did, or all of that really started after the diabetes. In terms of school experiences, I think that kids are kids. I mean, they were also young, 11 and 12. And I think that they did try to be kind of compassionate. I remember I got this greeting card that was posted to me and signed by everyone from my class.
Oh.
There were like 42 people in my class. That was a big size. So everyone had signed it on that card. And there's also, so I had another classmate who also was really good at sketching and, painting and drawing. So he was the one who, personally and manually sketched like a flower pot with flowers on that card, and it wasn't like a card we bought or anything. It was personally made and sent to me. But I think in terms of the educational system, I didn't get much support at all from the teachers or from the school principal, or because it was just culturally very different. and I had not actually studied in Chennai before that. So I remember that I skipped a whole term in school. And they did agree that, well, if you can't write your half-yearly exams, you don't have to. But I still volunteered to write, up to three exams. Exams in up to three subjects. But I couldn't do like every subject. And but I do remember going down, to like the staff room and writing like test after test after test, like every single day, sometimes 2-3 tests a day, just so that I would pass and go to 7th grade. So this was, so the exam exemption was given on the condition that I finished all these tests, that I had missed when I was in the hospital. So that's one thing I remember that was going on for 3 months. I was like, I would be starting
in 6th grade. Nowadays people say you need not even have exams until 6th or 7th standard and so on. And at that stage to make you do all that when you really had a genuine, I think that's not kind. It's not a good thing.
But I did that during breaks, during the recess, during the lunch hour, during the other recess. So it was, pretty long. It was from 9 to 4 p.m. So, every break, basically, I kind of, would kind of be writing a test, squatting on the floor outside the teacher's staff room, so that I could pass. Otherwise, I had to write like every single exam. I still volunteered to do 3 exams, which I did. And then so that was how it was. There was no support or understanding from the school. The classmates were okay, but I think that at some level they also kind of found it weird that I have to eat every 2 hours. I had lost a lot of weight and then gained some weight and all that. So there was body shaming that was there. As recently as not as when we were as old as 10th grade kids. So all that did happen. I was teased for having to eat every 2 hours, and
So so it's because in some of the other things, these experiences have been different. So it depends on the school, depends on the. Also, you must remember it's like so many years ago, 15, 20 years or more ago, and at that time the awareness about type 1 diabetes also may not have been so good, and that's why in some of our programs. Yesterday, I was talking to Dr. Ashish Bondia, who is the director of the health program of the Hinduja Foundation, which supports many children with type 1 diabetes. And one of the things that we are doing as part of our program, we call it as a T1D1 program or the type 1 diabetes program, is to go to schools, sensitize them, give them little booklets about what is type 1 diabetes, what is to be done, emergency measures, treatment of hypoglycemia, what are the symptoms that a child may have. All these, I think, are very valuable if you're able to teach every child who is in a school where every child with type 1 diabetes in a school. I think that school must then be educated about that. So once we do that, I think things will be really good. So let's, before we come to your present thing as an author, journalist, and social justice advocate, and so on, a little bit more about the rest of the treatment and how initially you were on 2 injections a day, and then you came 2000 to Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Center. And then after that, so how was your experience? How did you feel when you were treated with us, and how did it change your outlook to diabetes, or how did you feel after that?
Well, that was so I remember I had a very, very poor A1C value, and our first meeting, that was when I started taking 3 injections a day. So until then, I was just taking 2 injections a day. And you suggested, well, before lunch, take X amount of this and Y amount of that. And I used to be on the R and NPH regimen.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was on that regimen for the longest time. So you also changed that. That was a big, that was a regimen that was, in vogue at the time. Because before that, I was taking some Mixtard, some Atropine, Monotard, and all that.
Pre-mixed and all that, okay. From there, you would have been taking a pre-mixed insulin. From there, you would have changed it to the, the 3 times insulin with a little long-acting and so on.
So when I came to MV Diabetes, I, first of all found a regimen that worked, and I was, literally on that regimen as recently as end of 2018. I'm not kidding you.
Okay.
Because before that, like I was constantly changing regimens. I was on Mixtard, then I was on Atropine Monotard, and then I found this regimen that you suggested, R and NPH, and then the A1C, carb counting to some extent. You'd spoken about that, everything, and I think the key, what really supersedes even all of that is the notion, the comfort level that I felt. I was only 14, but I felt very respected and valued as a human being, as a person, as an individual, which I think doctors should think of and do when they are, addressing any patient, particularly patients of type 1 diabetes, which is a chronic, autoimmune condition that can and does have a psychological impact somewhere. So that comfort level, really infused with a lot of wisdom and insight and knowledge, and not. It was kind of also you were and are very unassuming, and really I think the passion, that you have, that was there even back then, was quite infectious, and anything that you said or spoke, it was just evident that you care about that, you genuinely care about that, that's a cause that you devoted yourself to, and you want to do what you can, like everything possible that you can to promote that cause, and see how we can discover a cure, or how we can improve treatment programs and management techniques. So excuse me. So that was also when I started going to the gym and
Oh,
working out, and yeah, and so it was, I think it was very comfortable for me. And, you've been there not only, in the context of type 1 diabetes, but any other related aspect that we've talked about. It's been truly wonderful. And I think all of that, the attitude that I subsequently developed, the positive attitude, or, the can do, well, I can get it attitude, has really kept me in good stead, in spite of an unconventional career.
thank you. That's very nice to hear, Nish. So from there, the other thing I want to just mention about in connection with your illness is you also had, I think, hypothyroidism, and you were treated for that. Now that, of course, is not very difficult to treat, but you also had another autoimmune condition, rheumatoid arthritis. Now this shows that the whole, you mentioned there's no family history of diabetes. So normally if a type 2 person with type 2 diabetes gets it at a young age, there's a very strong family history. Either the father or the mother, or usually both. And usually some of the grandparents also have it. Those are the people who get type 2 diabetes when they're young. But when people with type 1 diabetes, children with type 1 diabetes come, usually the parents don't have, usually the grandparents don't have. Something goes wrong. An autoimmune mechanism breakdown occurs. And that's what leads to diabetes. And the same thing has led to rheumatoid arthritis also in your case. So was that also, when did that start, and was that also difficult for you?
I think I would say the rheumatoid arthritis was more difficult because I was an adult and I was in a new country, new city. Yes, hypothyroid. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism at 10, but then I hadn't hit puberty yet. So what happened was, when I got puberty, the hypothyroidism vanished and it became normal, but it returned in 2019.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I still do have it right now.
Oh, yeah. Right. I lost
so that was the reason I gained a lot of weight, because it wasn't discovered. I don't know how long I must have had it, but it was discovered that it came back in July 2019. I discovered that I apparently had it. So, but I'm on a tablet for that. And the rheumatoid arthritis, I actually was, I'd just gone to Columbia University on a reporting fellowship.
Okay.
And so it was, it was a very intensive journalism program, because it was just 9 months. I was on a, reporting fellowship. I, prior to that, a year ago, I had, relocated to the US upon getting married, and I had been in San Diego for about 10 months before moving to New York. So the weather in San Diego is awesome.
You were in London for UK for some time, no?
Yes, I was in the UK for a few years before that. And I came to the US in 2010, And I was in San Diego for about 10 months because my husband was working there. And then I had actually, admissions, offers for PhD programs in multiple universities, including Indiana, Columbia Teachers College, Cambridge University, Warwick, and Bath in the UK, and Indiana and Columbia in the US. But Columbia Journalism School was the only non-PhD program I applied for, and I wanted to kind of focus on, my marriage, my husband. So I didn't, because my husband was in San Diego, I didn't see myself, doing a PhD at Columbia Teachers College in New York for like 6, 7 years. So I went to journalism school, and New York. So I had been in the US for just about a year, and I had been in New York only for about 2 months. So it was very difficult to find a place to stay, and I, kind of. Found a roommate, and because before I came to New York, I was researching for my book Victims for Sale. I was in London for a couple of months, and I was researching for that. I was on the field interviewing people, police and BBC producers and things like that. So I could not be physically present in New York to look for a house. To look for accommodation, and I did not get university accommodation because I was a US resident, and they prioritize international students to give accommodation. So I, went private, and I discovered that my roommate had some retrovirus infection, which apparently is linked to HIV. So I scrambled to, move from there. So it was a very stressful situation because, I think threatened to take me to the police. They said I can't move, I can't break my lease. I had signed a lease. So it was very, very stressful. But somehow I think I got a male classmate from Columbia to kind of help me, pack up my stuff. I had Columbia public safety people come to the house because my roommate was not, I kind of feared for my safety. I had to also get out of there. So all that happened, and I finally moved to International House. 1 month after I moved to International House, slowly and then suddenly I just lost my mobility. I had been at Columbia for about 3 months, so that was very difficult. I was 24, and so it started with a knee ache, and I was like, well, I just walked a lot today or whatever, and I laughed it off initially. So I didn't do anything, and I even joked to one of my friends that it could be osteoporosis or something because I would not have that much milk, but then it got worse, and then it kind of, and I had no clue what was going on. So I went to an orthopedic. I have orthopedic issues also. So I went to an orthopedic doctor, and you can only go to specialists, right? I wasn't sure which specialist to go to. I think I went to another doctor, so nobody knew what was going on. Because here everybody is very specialized. If you want therapy, there is a hand therapist. If you have a problem with your back, you have to go to a
left hand and a right hand specialist, and there's also a thumb specialist and the index finger specialist. I'm just joking.
Yeah, but I've always been a very intuitive person, and I've always been a spiritual person as well. So I would say that my spiritual awakening, kind of really took off or ramped up in about 2007 when I was in London. So, I was this intuitive person, and I was thinking, well, I don't know, I might have rheumatoid arthritis, So I just literally Googled, and all the symptoms seemed similar because I was having all the hand pain. I couldn't write. Actually, this was how I learned to become, I was ambidextrous for a while, and I wrote all of my Columbia exams with my left hand. And as of now, I brush my teeth with my left hand. So I do things with both hands today.
So you actually became ambidextrous after that, is it? You were not ambidextrous earlier, but you kind of learned to use your left hand. And was it that how it happened?
I think so. I must have been a left-hander who was converted.
At some point, At some point,
I must have been a left-hander who was converted to a right-hander. I don't know, but because I don't remember. But I did try to use both hands. When the hands got really bad, there were times when I would open doors and faucets with my feet. Yeah, I trained myself to do all that. It was very bad, and I couldn't find a doctor for months. So finally, I Googled. I thought, okay, maybe I should see a rheumatologist because maybe I have rheumatoid arthritis. So I didn't know. So I Googled and then found this doctor, a rheumatologist. It was just a random Google. And by God's grace, this doctor was amazing. I mean, made me feel so comfortable. Dr. Bruce Solitaire, and I still see him today. I've been seeing him for 8 years. So the RA was diagnosed, the rheumatoid arthritis was diagnosed in 2012. And I remember, so they took blood tests and then I was sent for x-rays. So no joint damage had set in, but there was no joint damage, but there was a lot of inflammation. So, I was put on an anti-inflammatory because of my type 1 diabetes, right? I was not put on corticosteroids or anything. I was put on a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, which I took. And then I was prescribed another kind of a DMARD, disease-modifying, medicine called leflunomide. So I was taking that, and it actually in like 3 weeks maybe, or in 2 weeks, I regained my mobility. I was still feeling weak and things like that. I couldn't like hold a heavy mug for a couple of months, but I was able to write and do many normal things, go around. I was able to walk and all that. So I felt really kind of comfortable and relieved. And then for the longest time, for about 8 years, I was on that leflunomide regimen, and I felt normal. I've done everything with that. And my doctor, that doctor also has been really good. Dr. Bruce Solitaire has been very compassionate, respectful. He's also been very nice to me.
Wonderful. I'm going to, before I go on to your, the writer part, there are 3 questions in the chat box. Ankit Rai, that's more of a comment. He says, Dr. V Mohan and Nish, thank you for all this. I was also in diabetic coma 4 months ago. Ankit, thank you for sharing this with us. I suppose you have type 1 diabetes. I hope you are well looked after now. I hope things have settled down, and I hope this program is useful for you. I wish you all the best, and if I can help you in any way, do let me know. So Tasin Chako, who is also one of my patients and a good friend of mine, she was on this program a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think. So she's asking, which school did you go to? Because you mentioned about the school, and she's just curious because she's a teacher, so she wants to know which school you went to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was in Balavidya Mandir when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Okay. And then later I went to Shishya for, the 11th and 12th grade, which is an equivalent of junior college. And there the teachers were great. I mean, that was different. It was a different experience. Yeah, but I was in BVM when the thing was diagnosed. Yeah.
And then there's Mary is asking, are you using a pump? So I think that part also we can talk about. So she wants to know whether you're using a pump. Mary, Nish will answer that.
Sure. Well, yes, I am right now. So I'm on an insulin pump called Omnipod, and it's very, sleek. It's a tubeless pump, and it's also small. So it kind of looks, it's about the size of this finger.
Yeah.
Maybe 3/4 of this finger, not even the size of an index finger. 3/4 of that.
She's asked another question, which you're going to answer along with it. Does it also have a CGM? So it doesn't. So you can answer that as well.
Yeah. So the CGM, you have to get it separately. So I am wearing a sensor, and I'll show everyone. I am on a Freestyle Libre sensor, which actually kind of looks cool. It looks fashionable. So this is how it looks.
Okay. So there it is.
So it's the size of a coin. Yeah. And, so what I need to do to check my blood sugars, if I take my phone, and if I just, test it, like if I just, keep my phone here, it will give you my, the blood sugar reading. So that's how it works. It's not painful.
You wear
it's not painful.
You wear it continuously. So one is over, I think for 2 weeks it comes, and then you replace it with another one. So you're continuously wearing it. Okay.
Yeah, so the sensor, I wear it I have to change it every 2 weeks, and then the pod, the Omnipod, I change it every couple of days.
So the Omnipod, unlike Mary, unlike the pumps that we have in India, which we use the Medtronic's pump, that's only one I think available in India. There are 2 other makes which now have been discontinued. So those pumps are regular pumps which you have to wear. They have tubes and so on. The Omnipod, which Nish wears, is a small, capsule-like thing, and as she said, it's about that big. And you just stick it on your abdomen, and it delivers the insulin. And then the CGM directly picks up the reading. But there are some people who actually loop this. So you can have a looper system whereby this gets, she said she's reading it on the phone, seeing the reading, and then deciding how much insulin to adjust. But there are others who do an automatic looping system. This is not fully FDA approved though, but I know people who do that, where you have the loop will then tell you how much insulin to give, and then you can use that. Of course, fully automated insulin pumps have also come now, very close to an artificial pancreas, where the pump itself has a CGM in it, and those are available in India as well. And so it reads it, it tells you how much to do, and then there are also pumps where the low sugar suspend is there. So once the sugar drops, the pump will stop, and then when sugar comes up again, it will restart. There are also alarm systems built into some pumps. So the sugar drops, it will give you an alarm beep, so you know it's going low. And if the sugar goes high, it can give you another alarm beep. And so all these are technological advances which are coming. And I think in the future, these will all get more and more better in times to come. And we are definitely, because artificial intelligence is now heavily being used. So using AI, you can predict the pattern of a particular person's diabetes. And after studying a week or two, it's 99.9% accurate. It'll tell you how much insulin to take. Of course, the human element always has to be there, because sometimes, like all machines, they can go wrong. But these are rapid improvements in technology. So we have run out of questions there. So now let me get back to the next journey. So you went to the UK, and then you went to US, and I know that you have a journalist blood in you, because your mother is also a journalist and a writer. I know her for many years now. So tell us about your story and how you got to writing, to journalism. Tell us about your first book, The Voyage to Excellence, and then your third book, which made you quite famous, The Victims for Sale, published by HarperCollins. So tell us all about that.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I first started my journey with writing, first began with fiction, and then I went to journalism. So I started writing fiction when my mom was either it was in hospital and had just come out, just come out of the brain surgery, brain tumor surgery. So that was around the time that I started writing, and I started writing because I, started reading, and I read Enid Blyton books to start. I was very young. So, and Enid Blyton has written like a lot of fantasy fiction. This particular series, the Magic Faraway Tree series, there are 3 books in the series that particularly was so addictive and so inspiring that I literally sat down to pen, my own version of a fantasy novel. Took a pen and or a pencil, a pen, I think, and scribbled on notepads, and sometimes even illustrated my own scenes. So that was how it started. But for me, writing is how I connect with the world, and that's how I also express myself. So when it came to I've been a person even as a kid who's always questioned norms, who's always believed that normalcy is an illusion, because we are all subjects of social conditioning, and the older we get, the more conditioned we become, and social conditioning comes with a host of self-imposed beliefs that could be limiting, that might create other conflicts within us that can hold back our potential. So in that context, I felt that, well, I need to kind of voice, talk about certain things, and that is what catalyzed journalism. So my first journalistic article was published in 1999 in the Hindu, and it was about, I think, it was something cultural. I think it was about a cultural festival. Okay. And then I began interviewing many. They thought that because I'm a young kid, it would make sense to get me to interview like celebrities. And so my next piece for the Hindu, I think, was an interview with Sachin Tendulkar in the year 2000. Yeah, this was around just before my 10th standard board exams. So I interviewed him, and then I interviewed A.R. Rahman.
Did you go to Bombay to interview him, or you went to Mumbai to interview him, or he came to when he was in Chennai you interviewed him?
Oh, well, I think when he was in Chennai. So when we were all in Chennai, and I've interviewed Bollywood singer Shweta Shetty, who was quite popular back in the day. I've interviewed actor Madhavan, then Yuvan Shankar Raj, who's A.L.A. Raja's son, music director. So over the years, until 2006, I went to London in the mid 2000s. So until I went to London, I'd interviewed all of these several people from several different walks of life, not just for the Hindu, but I began freelancing for Shoppers Digest, for the Week magazine, India Today, the Indian Express. So I've written for all of these publications over a span of 5-6 years. And then I used to do other features and things like that. So that was how it started. And then my first book, I thought, because I was doing a lot of entertainment reporting and cultural reporting, I loved economics. Because for me, economics is like about people. It's not just about money and transactions. For me, it's about people. So I was majoring in economics, and I told myself, I thought, well, I want to kind of do something more meaningful, something in the realm of business and economics, or something that's more serious. So that's what so I was authoring a weekly column called on entrepreneurs for the Indian Express. And I was interviewing different entrepreneurs every week. So that really was the genesis of my first book, The Voyage to Excellence, because I thought that a lot of entrepreneurs who were around at the time, we're talking about 2002, 2003, so they were men. And I thought, well, there are women out there who are doing things, who are, talented, who are probably either not, they're not out there voicing their opinions, or, they're not out there, they're not being written about. And so why don't I look at a book on women entrepreneurs and women business leaders? And I'm a student, but I'm also a freelance journalist, and because I'm a student, it might be easier to get access to some of the business celebrities. So that's how it started, and I'd interviewed Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw of Biocon, Ekta Kapoor, or Balaji Telefilms back then. Shehnaz Hussain was big, a big name back then. So women from at least 12 different sectors: fashion, the fashion lady Ritu Kumar, Simone Tata. So all of these people, Naina Lal Kidwai of HSBC. So women from 12 different sectors.
Didn't you interview Sonia Gandhi at some point?
The book was presented to Sonia Gandhi.
Something about Sonia Gandhi. Yeah, okay.
It was only business women business leaders, 21 of them, who were featured. That book is called The Voyage to Excellence. It is still on Amazon. If you guys would like to check that out. And the book was presented to Sonia Gandhi. It was launched by a union minister, Renuka Chaudhary, Union Minister for Women and Child Welfare and Development at the time. And it was written about, presented it by way of the BBC, CNBC was featured everywhere back then. So that really was what got, I think, the London School of Economics to give me admission on an exemption basis for a master's program in media and communications research. Because at the time, if you were an Indian and if you were applying from India, you had to have a master's degree to even apply and even be eligible to be considered. And I was 18 when I applied, at 19 when I was offered the admissions. I was still doing my bachelor's. I didn't have any master's degree because I certainly didn't have all of that. I didn't have work experience. So I was literally the youngest person in a department of close to 300 people back then. And then Victims for Sale also grew out of my experiences as a journalist, but it's different. It's really set against the backdrop of what family honor means among South Asian communities worldwide, and how that can, kind of be detrimental to the well-being of women, particularly women with specific challenges, like developmental disabilities, or so that was how that also was an offshoot of like an assignment for the Hindu, but it evolved into a fiction novel, Victims for Sale. Yeah.
That is published by HarperCollins, and it's a paperback bestseller, and it was nominated for the Mumbai Film Festival Word to Screen Award, and critically reviewed by Charles Salzberg. So that really went places. How many copies has that book sold? Just to be curious.
Several thousands. I mean, easily tens of thousands. I don't have the latest royalty statement from HarperCollins though, because I think that they would probably send it to me in October. I mean,
Oh.
they send it in October or in April, like that, every 6 months. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's all several thousands, and in fact, it's a
most of the
thousand every 3 months.
most of the bookstores have it, or most of the
I'm sorry?
bookstores have it. Most of the bookstores, do they have the book?
Presumably, I mean, it has been. I don't know what the coronavirus has done right now, because certain bookstores like Full Circle have just shut down because of the coronavirus. So now Amazon sales have really increased since the lockdown period in March. So Amazon sales are doing really well. Bookstores in India, I presume it's there, but I mean, I live in New York, so I don't.
Most of them are, no. I think post-COVID, it's a bad scene. Airports are closed. Wherever you get the usual bookstores, they're all closed. Malls are closed. Wherever the bookstores and retail stores are there, they're bad scene. But it'll come back. I think in after September, October, now they're all opening up. The malls have started opening. Express Avenue is opening up. So I think it'll all come back for that. And for your work in this, you're recognized as an outstanding journalist in the Hall of Fame as part of the Emmy Award. So what is this Emmy Awards?
So it's called the Illyrian MLP Awards, and it's an industry-specific award. So I was covering the oil and gas markets, for a couple of years, and I was a reporter. I was a journalist at S&P, a senior journalist at S&P Global. So I was just based on my coverage of the oil and gas markets, including environmental challenges, related to various pipelines that are being developed here, and scramble for license permits for the construction of these pipelines, and then protests from environmental groups and other residents living in those communities, because the pipelines can either exacerbate earthquakes or windstorms. And so I've covered issues like that. So in recognition of that, 50 sector experts, that is 25 analysts and 25 investors, I don't even know who they are, but they nominated, they selected me, and they nominated my name, me, for the award, and then recognized me as an outstanding, midstream energy reporter across North America in 2017, based on my work for S&P Global.
Kind of things you have achieved at such a young. You use the word prodigy, and I think precocious prodigy. I think all that holds true in your case. So your latest book, so you have a regular job also. You right now you hold an editorial post as a news provider. Reorg, is it? So apart from your regular job, you still do your writing separately. Is that it?
Yes, yeah. So I am a journalist at Reorg, and I work in editorial. I cover distressed debt markets, and Reorg is, backed by a private equity firm, Warburg Pincus. And of course, right now I've been working from home. We all are, because of COVID. But I mean, for me, I'm really serious about fiction. My fiction writing, it has really been a constant strand for me through the vagaries of every realm of the non-linear, corporate or posts that I've held, or journalism posts. Because for me, fiction and literature for me, fiction is like an oil painting, and journalism is like a photograph. I mean, that's the analogy I draw. And so yes, I have been writing fiction, and also writing other articles, and or just voicing. I've been campaigning for the cause of type 1 diabetes, particularly soaring drug prices in the US. 7 to 8 people, I think, in less than 2 years had lost their lives because they, lost their jobs, and or they had aged out of their parents' health insurance. So in the US, you can't be on your parents' health insurance if you're 26 and above, and then there's no job security whatsoever in the US, compared to some other countries. So they all lost their jobs, no insurance. They were trying to buy insulin, they were trying to ration insulin, and they died. There was one guy I think last year, who was buying cheap insulin I think I don't know what insulin he was buying, but it was not the insulin that was prescribed to him. He was buying it for $25 a pop from Walmart, and he took that. It didn't control his blood sugars. His blood turned acidic, and he passed away. So this has been a norm. I've been campaigning for that in my capacity as an author. I've been talking about that in some forums, and I do want to kind of contribute or do something to push for the cause of governments providing free insulin or to people, to young people, and otherwise in the US, in India also. In India also, I think the prices have really increased.
I'm glad you touched on that, because just yesterday, literally yesterday, of the same show, same time, 7 to 8, I was talking to Dr. Ashish Bondia. I don't know whether he's on this program, watching this program, but we were talking about people whom their foundation helped through our Madras Diabetes Research Foundation and through Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Center, and 250 children with type 1 diabetes are being supported by them, and totally 600. 250 in Chennai, and then in Pune, another number, and then some more in their own PD Hinduja hospital in Mumbai. So Mumbai, Pune, Chennai. Between these three centers, 600 children are being supported with free insulin, free treatment, free checkups, free consultations, free AGP Libre, free pumps to some, and free glucometers, free strips, and not just once, but on a lifelong basis. So this has been a program which we are working with him. And so I was talking to him, and yesterday when I presented, I actually showed some slides of the lives of people, how it has changed after they got. Some of them just gave up, and one child he gave up. He was studying in 10th standard, and he just gave up his studies because he had to work to earn to take insulin. So he dropped out from school so that he can get some job so that he could pay for his insulin, because his parents couldn't. His father was not there, and mother was had some problem, mentally challenged, something, and so he had to do this. And then so when we called him and we were able to support his insulin and the treatment, now he can go back and complete his studies or job or whatever, and look after his life. So we are talking about how the economic situation of not just him, but then the family that he raises and so on, completely changed by one donation. And we were thinking that all these only exist in developing countries like India, but then to hear that all over the world the problems are the same, and in the US that these things are happening, is quite shocking. And as you say, there must be some protection for children with type 1 diabetes. Somewhere I remember the World Health Organization, International Diabetes Federation, American Diabetes Association, with all of whom I work quite closely, we put out a statement saying that no child should ever die because they could not afford insulin or did not have access to insulin in the world. It's still a it's still a rhetoric, and it's still a hype, and it's still not happening. But that's our philosophy, that no child anywhere in the world should die due to lack of insulin. I know that companies like Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly and Sanofi and so on also help. They help also by giving the program which Novo runs called Change a Child, and there they give insulin to a large number of people. But there are a lot of charities, a lot of NGOs, a lot of foundations, a lot of private organizations like us, hospitals. We run a trust called Direct, and that's a charitable trust. And through that, even before the Hinduja Foundation came, and even after, we have independently our own. That means from some of our staff donate, and some of of course the directors, we all donate. Part of our salary we give to that, and we keep a fund. And so if anybody comes in and they're not able to afford, then straight away we treat them through the trust. The trust doesn't have any employees. So 99% of whatever we get as donations are used for free treatment of children with mostly children, because by the time they become adults, they start earning anyway, so they can look after themselves. So mostly it's for children, but sometimes even through adulthood, we have to support them because they have some other problem. They're not able to work, or they are handicapped due to having an eye problem or some other problem, and so on. They're not able to walk, or some other problem. So we have to keep supporting them, throughout their life. So it's very heartening to know that you're working for that particular cause and that it's actually happening there. Let's switch tracks. We still got a few minutes more. So despite your rheumatoid arthritis, you continue to lead an engaging, hectic, and productive life. Of course, you travel a lot on work, but also you've tried new activities like kayaking and rope swinging and martini making. And you have written that you average 15,000 steps a day. Now, that makes me jealous because I'm trying to get my 10,000 steps and I don't always succeed. So that's my aim, to get at least 10,000 steps a day. I succeed on many days, most days I would say, but not on all days. And so for me to find someone who's averaging 15,000 steps of running, walking every single day for the past 8 months, even through COVID, is something which is fantastic. So how do you get those 15,000 steps? How do you divide that into, so many people who don't have diabetes also will be interested to know how to get those 15,000 steps on an average and to keep it up.
Well, thanks. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing also your efforts for the cause of type 1 diabetes. It's incredibly inspiring for me to hear, and I'm certainly very optimistic and hopeful. So with regard to my activity, I mean, I've always been like this restless person, physically. I believe in being physically active. And for me, from the beginning of 2020, I have consciously, kind of decided to just pay more attention to my health because, I have been working very hard and, like you have to have a wall to hang a beautiful picture. If there's no wall, where will you hang the picture, right? So
Yeah.
I have been generally, focusing on my health, having a disciplined diet. As I mentioned, I gained a lot of weight, because of various things. I was on a steroid medication for a while, for 3 months. So I gained weight on that. Then I changed my arthritis treatment plan for certain important reasons in March. So literally just before the lockdown, I gained a ton of weight on that, plus a number of other side effects. So for me, it was very important to be physically active, to have the fluid running through my joints. And so I used to be this person who would run before on the treadmill, or who would run outdoors, in the stadium, there was a sports stadium in my previous residential complex where I was doing that. But today it's like I'm kind of, trying to avoid heavy cardio. And that's why I do a lot of walking and I break it up through the day. So, morning is when I feel I can kind of, best metabolize, the best rates of metabolization happen in the morning. So in the morning or early afternoon is the first time, just like, half an hour, 40 minutes each time. It's not much. And then after lunch,
40 minutes, you can get only about 4,000 steps, So how do you, do it several times, is it? Oh.
Yeah. So then in the afternoon, it depends. If I haven't gone in the morning, I will go for an after lunch walk. And then in the evening, I would go, just before dinner, I would walk for an hour. After dinner, at least 1.5 hours walk. And the weather is so beautiful here. It's still summer. It will get cold in a month or two. But, for me, walking is also meditative. So if we are looking at, stress management, I have a hectic career. It's an unconventional career, and I'm doing a number of different things. And so stress is quite common. So, or it's kind of inevitable at some level. So I used to meditate for many years, up until recently, but now I find walking to also be meditative. So I would listen to podcasts or videos, or even have calls, work calls, or any call, whatever it is. I found that I can do that during my walking. So that's how I club and balance that. So I don't kind of really do that at the expense of my work or anything, because like I would have to call a pharmacy or an insurance carrier, or I would have to call a source for work, or or someone else, maybe an editor for my fiction, or some whatever it is. So I do all of that when I'm walking. So yeah, it is a couple hours. I would say at least 2.5 hours I would walk
Oh,
every day.
and you
Yeah,
can
every
easily
30 minutes it's 3,000 steps.
3,000. That's what I said. It's 30 minutes to
Exactly.
3,000. And so 1 hour, you can get about 6,000, 6,500. But you're
Yeah.
doing 15, that has to be 2.5 hours. So that's a lot of exercise. And yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that when you do your exercise, it's meditative. Now, I do my pranayama separately after that, but while I'm on the treadmill, and now I mean, very rarely used to use a treadmill. I used to go to the Madras club where I walk, and so that's a nice pastime. I have friends there. But after COVID came, all that kind of stopped. Every activity stopped. The police weren't even allowing people to walk on the road. It's changing now. So I started using the treadmill, and on the treadmill it can get quite boring. But then what I realized is that I can use that time for my prayers. I actually pray 5 times a day, and so one of this time that I get is I get like 45 minutes, 50 minutes on the treadmill. So from the time I get on to the treadmill until the time I get off, 45, 50 minutes, 6,000 steps at least I would have done. Throughout, I am praying. And so I have a regular set of prayers, which, I would, say that once, and then the second time, and the third time, the cycle again repeats the second time, third time. And by the time I'm done, my exercise is over. And during that time, I'm glad you mentioned meditation, because my mind, when I am praying, is not just mechanically just saying it, but it is going to, for example, you might know I'm a Central Trust member of the Prashant Nilayam Satya Sai Baba's Trust. And last 6 months, I haven't been there because of COVID. It's all closed down. But in my mind, every single day I'm there. I'm there in the meditation hall. I'm there in the Samadhi. My mind then shifts to Shirdi, and then my mind shifts here, shifts there. So every day it's a journey actually going, and it's so blissful. And at the same time, I'm getting my exercise. And so, as you said, I can call it meditative, and that's exactly what I do. And that's why I'm not in a hurry to get back, to my walk, because I'm enjoying this. Otherwise, I used to, really boring it is. On a treadmill, time doesn't pass, You would have walked and walked, and then finally it's only 8 minutes. Oh gosh, I thought it was 1 hour, Now, before I know it, it's over. 50 minutes is over, and I've finished all those things, and I've done everything that I wanted to do. And so it's kind of meditation plus prayer plus everything plus exercise and everything. So I'm glad you share the same thing. So it's been a terrific experience for me for the last 6 months or so. And every single day I also do this because I'm waiting for that particular time to to connect to a power above you, and it gives you so much of strength and so on. So I realized that we have just crossed one. So there's Ms. Venugopal is asking, how does a person with can a diabetic patient gain weight few kg? That's for me. Venugopal, yes, like a person without diabetes can also gain weight. So a person with diabetes can also gain weight. Medicines for diabetes can affect the weight. For example, insulin is something which can increase your weight. Insulin is a hormone. So if you don't watch your diet, especially people with type 2 diabetes, your weight will go up. If you keep on taking insulin and don't exercise, your weight is definitely going to go up a couple of kilos in a year. There are other tablets like sulfonylureas, and there's one particular tablet called pioglitazone, which if you take, you'll bloat. You'll really put on huge amount of weight. I don't use that drug anymore. There are certain medicines which can make you lose weight. But then there are also medicines can make you lose weight, or can make you lose weight also. So we have the SGLT2 group of drugs. They're relatively recent drugs, which if you take, your BP will come down, your sugar will come down, your weight will come down. And so it's very good. Mostly used in type 2 diabetes, now getting approved for type 1 as well. There's another group of drug called the GLP-1 receptor analogs, liraglutide and exenatide and semaglutide and dulaglutide. So these are, injectables. Mostly they're coming in tablet form also. These are drugs which can help you to not only control diabetes, but lose a lot of weight. So it all depends. So overall, to answer your question, if you balance out your calories, then, if you balance out your calories, then you can actually lose weight. Now, he's added one more thing saying, I was 88 and now became 73. Oh, I thought you said you can gain weight. You have actually lost 15 kilos. Well done. Your diabetes may go away. If you lose today, just now before this, I was in another seminar webinar where I gave a talk on diabetes reversal. And I said that if you lose 15 kilos in weight, you can actually reverse your diabetes, not type 1, type 2. You can reverse diabetes. So I would love to hear whether your diabetes reversed after you lost 15 kilos. Definitely your BP would have come down, sugar would have come down, triglyceride would come down, cholesterol would have come down, your sugar would have come down, everything would have come down. So well done. Before we kind of wind up, Nish, you are now working on your third book, Twin Flame. Is it over, or you're still writing it, or?
Yeah, no, Twin Flame. It is my fourth book. It's over. I mean, I'm just fine tuning it. I mean, doing some edits and So I worked under the guidance of Al Zuckerman for this book. Al Zuckerman is the founder and literary agent in New York, and he's a founder of Writers House. So so Twin Flame is it's a romantic drama with historical overtones and elements of magical realism. It is multi-geographic. So Al had invited me for lunch after reading my manuscript last year, and he had really loved it, and said that, I mean, he liked my style of writing. Rather, I think he connected with my voice, and so following that, he had told me that he would be very interested in representing me. So I worked under his guidance for a few months last year, editing the manuscript. Since then, it has undergone a number of rounds of edits, and as I am getting great feedback, and there seems to be great anticipation from readers. So I've finished that now, and I'm pitching it, seeking literary representation.
That's your fourth book coming up. So what's for the future? What are your plans next 5-10 years? Where do you want to go, and where do you see yourself going?
Well, I mean, when writing is how I connect with the world, so I certainly hope to continue to write, and hope to focus on fiction, write more novels. I do have tons of ideas for other novels, and right now, because I finished Twin Flame, I'm kind of trying to figure out which novel I want to get started on next, and I don't know, because there are at least 4 or 5 ideas I have out there.
How long do you take to write a novel from the time you start to? Do you kind of just write chapter by chapter, or later on you put them together, or the chapters, or how do you do that?
I think for me it's been a mix of I believe in planning, and so having a plot in place before I start writing it. Otherwise, it can kind of go nowhere. So I first lay out the plot and everything. And then I've been working full time, right? So it has taken time. And then secondly, it does take several years to get a literary agent. It takes between 12 and 18 months. Once a publisher acquires a manuscript, it takes between 12 and 18 months for the book to get published. So I don't have any godfather in the industry. I'm not a celebrity kid. I'm not from a wealthy family. So it does take time, to find an agent, and I'm banking solely on my talent and my merit.
What does the agent actually do? What does the agent actually do? The agent represents your book for sale, is it, or for getting write-ups about the book, or is that what
a literary agent helps you find a publisher. So
Okay.
he or she represents your book to publishers, multiple publishers, and then also negotiates a proper deal for you. So, for example, I got a really good advance. When HarperCollins paid me a good advance. So the agent is the one that negotiates all of that, and then sometimes literary agents will negotiate with the publisher that, hey, this book has to be submitted for awards A, B, and C, because authors can never apply for awards. It always has to be the agent or the publisher, that submits the book for awards. So that's what the agents do. And for me, I mean, several readers have asked me why Victims for Sale took 12 years. Well, first of all, I was, Victims for Sale was written in the midst of 2 postgraduate degrees, multiple hectic full-time newsroom jobs, constant relocations, and then, jobs didn't stay, so I had to look for new jobs. And then it took me 5 years to get a literary agent, and then another 4 years for the publisher to come. So that was why it took 12 years. I mean, I'm banking solely on my talent or merit. So it might take as long for Twin Flame as well. But for me, it's not about writing. It's never been about success and fame. For me, it's really been about connecting with the world, A, B, doing my bit to grease the wheels for social and political and economic change, And so that's what I kind of hope to, focus on, and also really campaign for the cause of type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, campaign for the cause of mental health, because I have had the situational depression, and these autoimmune conditions can and do have a psychological impact at one or more levels. So I do, in my capacity as an author, hope to continue to champion these causes, even 5, 10 years down the road.
If I can make a suggestion, I think one of your books should be on somebody with type 1 diabetes.
It
And
is in twin flame. It is. A lot of
oh,
my
it is.
such
Oh, okay.
experiences have gone into twin flame. That's why it's been praised by Alice Marter of the Alice Marter. She's a literary figurehead here. Al Zuckerman, Larry Kirschbaum was the former chief of Amazon Publishing. So several people I've read excerpts from this novel to an audience of 3,000 people or more at the Youth Hours Lit Fest in May. So one of the protagonists does have type 1 diabetes,
Okay.
and she also has rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow.
And I won't give away spoilers, but
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. So I
it
just
does
think
need its
you
way into the
haven't
book.
done that to tell you to do that. So I have one last question, and then we will stop. Nancy Cash, sir, if a person has thyroid and due to this he is overweight, recently diagnosed diabetes, so due to this is reduced weight. Now my question is, he controls his diabetes, will he gain weight? How can he control both issues? Oh, it's a little complicated, Nancy, but let me explain it. Uncontrolled diabetes can make you lose weight because you're losing glucose in the urine, then the fat will start breaking down. And Nish mentioned she went into diabetic coma, and Ankit Rai also said he did that. So that is the loss of weight which comes due to uncontrolled diabetes. When you give insulin, you're stopping that. Your health is improving. There's more, why do you feel thirsty? Because there's no water, and there's no water. 70% of your body is water. So if you don't have water and you're always feeling thirsty and going to the loo all the time, you've lost a lot of water, and therefore you lose a lot of weight. 3-4 kilos you can lose very easily. The moment you start controlling your diabetes and take insulin, you will gain little weight. That doesn't mean that you put on weight. What you have lost, you have gained. More water has come into the body. So it's actually a good thing. If you control your calories well and take the tablets properly and do your exercise, weight need not keep on increasing. Similarly, with hypothyroidism, you generally tend to gain weight. When you take your thyroid tablets, that will also come to normal. Thyroid doesn't affect the weight all that much. And the last question, or two more have come. Sonika Sood, which test should be done annually by type 1 child of 15 years old? There is a series of tests, Sonika, which should be done. You should look at your sugar levels, fasting and postprandial or before lunch. Now, Nish showed the AGP, the Freestyle Libre Pro. That can be put so that you know whether throughout the day 70% at least of your sugar is under control, the time in range, what we call as, that is something should be done. Your kidney function test, urea, creatinine, microalbuminuria. Once a year, an eye test should be done to see whether there's any diabetic retinopathy. Thyroid can be checked. Weight should be checked. Lipid profile, liver function test, ultrasound to see whether there's any, and then the feet, the Doppler, the biothissimetry to see whether your blood circulation is okay, your nerve test whether it's okay. So basically, it's covering head to foot the organs which can get affected due to diabetes. Those must be done once a year. Once in 3 months, say a sugar test. Of course, you should keep on testing your own sugars, either with the patch or with your sugars, and then once in 3 months or 4 months can get your HbA1c, which will tell you your 3 months control. Two more quick questions. Venugopal, if it's reverse for me reducing weight, should I take medicines or not? Venugopal, I can't answer that obviously in a thing. I don't even know your sugars. I don't know your things, so I cannot talk about it whether it can go or not. If you can come and see me, I can check all your sugars, or I can do it through telemedicine. If you're in some other city, you send me all your details. We can give you our email ID. It's drmohans@diabetes.ind.in. So if you write to us, we will let you know, and probably the medicines can be reduced. We will have to see on an individual basis. Not everyone reverts their diabetes even with 15 kg weight loss. Some people do. So we'll have to think about that. Adupa Sridevi, good evening. Ms. Nish, and good evening, sir. Wish to know what are the pros and cons of continuous glucose monitoring. You answer that and I'll answer it, and then we'll stop.
Sure. Well, I think the pros are that you avoid finger pricks. So that's huge, the biggest plus.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient. because what I do is I just use my mobile phone and scan it against the sensor, and it gives me my reading. So you can really integrate it with your cell phone. It does come with its own reader. I don't personally use that because for me it's like a question of carrying another reader device and then worrying about not losing that and all that. So I just do it from my phone. I think in terms of adapting to the current lifestyle, it's very convenient. You can sleep on that side. You can, I mean, you don't have to worry about all that. It's not painful.
Yeah, and even during shower, you don't have to take it off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so these are all the pros. I mean, the sense of the freestyle Libre is good because it kind of looks fashionable for me. So if I'm wearing a sleeveless dress or something, I kind of feel like showing it off sometimes. I'll be honest. But the cons are it's still a machine, so it can come off. And then if it comes off, then each sensor is expensive unless you're insured. But even with insurance, for me, my out of pocket it costs $250 every time, like out of pocket, even after insurance coverage. So it is expensive. So like I mean, if a sensor kind of comes off, then you've lost that, right? And then you can put a new sensor in, but you just have to be careful about that. If you're a woman and if you're wearing a brassiere or whatever, or even a dress, or I mean, well, kind of dressing up, if you're wearing a bra, you have to be a bit careful there. You have to kind of just take care to ensure that you don't put too much oil in that area, or too much moisturizer or lotion or anything like that, because it can come off. But generally it doesn't. These are just things to keep in mind because it's still a machine. Every technology will fail at some point. In which case, and you should, I would certainly recommend that you have the finger pricking machine as a backup. I mean, the readings are generally accurate, but for some reason, if you're traveling, the sensors come off, or maybe the readings are not accurate. If it says that it's like 440 and you're feeling fine, and maybe the reading is not accurate, then you can always validate with a finger prick. So I still have that as a backup just in case, and I carry that with me every time I'm traveling. So that's all I would say. Yeah, it's much better
So
than
to add to what Nish said, when you check the fingerprint versus this, you must remember there's a 20 to 30-minute lag, because this is not blood that you're measuring interstitial fluid. This is blood, and the blood comes first and get to the interstitial fluid takes 20 minutes. So what this is telling you is what happened 20 minutes earlier. So when you check in the blood, that minute, what's happening. So that you must always keep in mind. And there's one last question from Tangaraj Thomas. Tangarajan Thomas, any side effects after taking metformin? Tangarajan, there are no side effects. I mean, any medicine can have side effects. So some people don't tolerate metformin. You can have little gastritis or little diarrhea. Some people, even small dose of metformin, they don't tolerate. People can take up to 3 grams, nothing happens. But for some, even with 500 milligrams, they get diarrhea and so on. That's the commonest side effect. The other side effect, which you recently might have read about, whether metformin some contamination with NDMA, which can produce cancer and so on, that has not been. That's only some low quality products which use some wrong, contaminant. That is what it produced it. Metformin itself metformin has been around for 60 years, by the way. 60 years, and I don't know how many million people, probably billion people, have already used metformin. So I made a video on this, about the safety of metformin when this cancer thing came up. This is about 2-3 months ago, when FDA said that certain contaminants of certain companies may have a product which is in a higher level. That's because of COVID, they stopped the testing. And so that time some companies, relaxed some production method. So I knew millions of people will be worried about it. So I made a short video on YouTube, and that video very soon crossed 1 million views. It is very, very popular, and it crossed 1 million views. It's still there on YouTube. So is metformin something I've written, and so it's there. It's only a 3-minute video. You can watch that. And incidentally, for all of you who have not followed my other YouTube videos, there are 53 videos I have already made on YouTube. They cover aspects like immunity building, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, COVID, diabetes, complications, are medicines safe? You name it, everything is there. And I'm planning to make many more, and I'm also planning to make them in different languages. Right now it's only in English, but I'm planning to do it in different languages. There are also videos made by patients. There's a man who's 101 years old now, who talks and says, I'm young. Who says I'm old? He's 101 years old, and he has diabetes for some 40 years. So and those of you who have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please feel free to subscribe. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook every day, and that's why I'm doing this program. So on that note, I'd like to thank Nish once again for readily sharing her life story. Not many people come forward to declare that they have diabetes, let alone talk all about. She not only talked about diabetes, she also talked about her rheumatoid arthritis and everything that she talked about, the good and the bad side of diabetes. Everything she has covered very frankly. More than that, I think Nish has been an inspiration because she decided early in life that diabetes is not going to put her down, and she used that as an opportunity to kind of improve on herself and raise the bar, so to speak. And today she is, already written 3 novels, and she's writing a 4th one. She's been so very active as a journalist, and she's multiple things she combines in life. So truly, you're an inspiration, Nish. So do you want to say something in parting to people who are listening, and then we'll stop?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Doctor. Thanks for having me. I'm very, very humbled, and certainly have been and are a huge source of inspiration, not just for people with type 1 diabetes or other autoimmune conditions, but for everyone. And I think that medical professionals out there should take some cues from your work. And for all of my readers and all of the people who are watching us right now, I just wanted to say that, there might be nature or the universe or God or whatever you want to call it does not give us, I believe, that, we aren't given problems we can't handle. So, type 1 diabetes is like that. Anything is like that. And we have them because we are strong enough to handle them, and not only handle them, but also grow and evolve to be the best and truest version of ourselves, because we are more than we're more than where we belong. We're more than our ailments. We're more than our, we have to, we're more than anything that we've been conditioned, conditioned by. So I just wanted to say that. So certainly keep a light on, and remember that you're a warrior always. Don't let anyone or anything get you down, and certainly take care of your health. That is my plea to each and every one of you. Money is secondary. Your mental and physical well-being are important. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think that's a very positive note. So namaste to all viewers, and thank you, Nish, for joining. See you all on the next edition of the conversation series with Dr. Mohan. On that note, we'll say goodbye and good night. Bye-bye.